Hello, it's William again. Hope you're all doing well. I am too, thank you for asking. Today I wanted to talk about Life is Strange Before the Storm. We are just a few weeks away from the game's release and we're starting to hear a few more interesting details about the game. Deck 9, the developers behind Before the Storm, recently did an AMA on the Life is Strange subreddit. Basically a Q&A for people to learn about Deck 9, the game itself, and give a little bit of insight into how they made Before the Storm. I regrettably didn't ask a question, but I wanted to wrap up all of the new information learned and see what we can take from all of it. I'll leave a link in the description for the AMA so you can check it out for yourself. Deck 9 actually went through the trouble of answering a shit ton of questions, which was pretty impressive, but I won't be covering all of it, just the new important stuff. For simplicity, I'll split this up into 3 parts: story, character, and other stuff. Starting off with the all-important story, one user asks about the determinate relationships Chloe might have in Before the Storm, such as Max and Warren in Season 1. Zach Garris, the lead writer for Before the Storm, states that while Chloe and Rachel are the main focus of the story, Chloe does have, at this point, relationships with a number of other people in the game, such as school friends or drug dealers, and with Rachel coming into her life to shake things up, we'll be able to decide the outcome of those relationships. Which I guess means it will be up to us to either keep certain people in Chloe's life, or if I had to guess, push people away in a negative or neutral way. I know it's pretty obvious that the game is focused around Chloe and Rachel, but I do like that Deck 9 are going to let you choose how you handle other relationships as well. Some of the people that come to mind are Justin, who Chloe mentions in episode 4 as having not talked to in a while, this Steph character who we'll talk about a bit later, but it looks like she'll be someone we can get to know, Frank of course, which we'll also cover later, and possibly Kate as well, since Chloe mentions her at the end of episode 1. Moving on, this second question talks about the decision to make a prequel instead of a sequel, with David Hine, producer on Before the Storm, answering that they wouldn't canonize one ending over another, and that they want that choice, that canon, to be owned by the players. I can imagine this question bringing up a lot of debate about the endings in Season 1. We've heard this kind of language being used before by some of the devs over at Donut Entertainment, but the question still pops up as to whether Donut, with Season 2, might canonize one of the endings, most people seeming to believe it's the Bay ending. It looks like Deck 9 don't really want to open that can of worms just yet by blocking out half the people who chose one ending over the other, which is completely understandable. The third story related question comes from who asks, will it be difficult to make unbiased choices in the prequel when we know so much about the characters as they already are from the original game? David Hine yet again responds, the events of Before the Storm are set 3 years before the original Life is Strange. What this means is that even the most dedicated fan won't know how Before the Storm is going to end. Be prepared to anguish over choices just like in Life is Strange Season 1. We decided very early on to ensure we're writing a story that no one knows the ending of. In fact, the vast majority of events throughout the series are all brand new. That last little bit was very interesting to me, and kind of kills my little fan theory that each episode was going to be a year apart leading up to the final year where Rachel disappears as the climactic ending in episode 3. Rest in peace. Basically, what David means is that the vast majority of events throughout Before the Storm are all brand new. This story and its conclusion are not mentioned at all in Season 1, which begs the question, why? Apart from just not wanting us to know the ending to Before the Storm, it would have to be an event that was so significant that Chloe never mentions it to Max in Season 1. Maybe the ending will be the climax of an event that both Rachel and Chloe experience and swear to never speak about again and take to their grave, which they did. Moving on from story, some interesting details were revealed on which characters will be returning from Season 1, starting off with Nathan. Once again, David Hine responds to a question about whether Nathan will return, saying, Nathan is an inherently complex character. Before the Storm will absolutely explore his character more. We might even learn more about why Nathan becomes who he is in the first game. Winky face. Nathan in the first game is someone who doesn't really have a happy ending, and it's going to be interesting finding out what led Nathan down this path. Nathan in Season 1 had in some way been involved with Rachel. They were friends and maybe Nathan wanted more. Nathan was also involved with Mark Jefferson and the Darkroom. I have a video that talks a little bit about this relationship that you can check out. Nathan has other people in his life, like his father, that had a dramatic effect on Nathan growing up. We don't meet Sean Prescott directly, but from the letters and emails he writes to his own son, it wouldn't be a friendly meeting. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of relationships Nathan had with his family, his teacher, and Rachel. There's one more of Nathan's friends that will also be making a return in Before the Storm, Victoria Chase. We don't know too much about the role she will play in Before the Storm other than her and Chloe will interact at some point, but I imagine it'll have something to do with Nathan, maybe learning about how they became such close friends. Victoria also has some sort of friendship with Rachel Amber, although it's not even really a friendship. There's hints in Season 1 that they weren't exactly close. We do hear Chloe reference Victoria's name in some earlier footage, which gives us a little bit of context, but we still don't know too much. Speaking of friends, Frank Bowers will also be returning, as we've seen in promotional videos before. Zach Garris states that Frank will be playing a vital role in Before the Storm, and that we're also going to be learning more about him and how he became the person he is in Season 1. Remember, while Frank was friends with both Chloe and Rachel, he had a sort of relationship with Rachel. The three of them were involved in a weird love triangle that for most of it Chloe was not aware of. While most of the story in Before the Storm will be seen from Chloe's perspective, meaning we might not see directly how they became involved, there may be some hints throughout the game we can examine through interactions with Frank. Coming a little closer into Chloe's life, we also learn more about Joyce and David's relationship. Chris Floyd, a co-game director, states that Joyce and David are at this point dating, and David will play a critical role in the story. What's really important here is that he states at the start of our story, they're dating, which to me implies that by the end of their story, David and Joyce are going to tie the knot, or at the very least David will ask Joyce to marry him, which could be what David wanted to talk to Chloe about at the end of the Chloe and David video. David and Joyce marrying each other is a significant event, especially to Chloe. Being in the very early years of her rebellious attitude and having her mother marry an ex-soldier, replacing William, will have a huge effect on her and how she develops into the blue-haired Chloe we know today. And last but not least, Zach Garris revealed that Samuel will also be returning in Before the Storm. Being the school janitor, it's no surprise he's returning, but I'm interested to learn more about Samuel and the role he played in Season 1. While Samuel was a strange character, he didn't have too much to do with the main story, although his dialogue implied he knew more than what he'd lead on. Or it could be that he's just weird and didn't know anything. But one interesting thing about Samuel is that he also had some dealing with Rachel Amber, having her photos in his shed, among other things. When I originally finished Life is Strange Season 1, I often thought Samuel had a bigger role to play that was eventually cut from development. Maybe in Before the Storm we might see a little bit more of what that was and what he had to do with Rachel. Jumping off returning characters, we'll also be introduced to a number of new characters that Chloe will either meet or even have past interactions with. One of these characters being Steph, who we see in the recently released gameplay texting Chloe. Chris Floyd says she's a studio favorite, which I guess is a small hint she'll have a somewhat medium to large role in the story. Maybe she's part of the new students that Chris mentions later on as well. He also mentions that there will be a new teacher as well, except he refers to this teacher as a new teacher at Blackwell, which may have been a sneaky way to suggest that this isn't a new character entirely, but maybe a teacher we already know who has just started teaching. Maybe just started teaching photography. There's also one more character coming to Before the Storm that's not mentioned in the AMA, but I figured I should talk about here. In some of the videos from other YouTubers who received access to Before the Storm, a lot of them discovered graffiti at the Firewalk event that says "Don't mess with Damon Merrick." Looking back at Life is Strange Season 1, if someone's name is written in graffiti on a wall, it often means that they've had such an effect on the world that causes someone to write their name on the wall in the first place. This graffiti looks pretty menacing and is a warning, so I can assume that whoever this Damon Merrick character is, we'll be learning more about him soon. Finally, we get to the other important stuff, things that aren't really story related or character related, but they are important to the game. Deck 9's StoryForge utility, which they've built from the ground up, runs in the Unity game engine, which means that the entirety of Before the Storm will also run in Unity. The original Life is Strange, for comparison, ran in the Unreal Engine 3. Now, we've seen plenty of footage of Before the Storm, and comparing it with Season 1, it looks different, but it still looks and feels like Life is Strange, with vastly improved lip syncing and maybe a few more awkward animations. But I still want to bring it up since, while it may look good and run well now, that may be an entirely different story after it releases. I've found there's been a lot of uproar about gaming engines recently, and how a lot of developers are being criticized for using engines that are old and outdated. Bethesda's Creation Engine, which is based on their older Gamebryo engine, Call of Duty's engine, which has been improved and upgraded but is still built on the same base of the old Quake 3 engine, and pretty much every Telltale game with the Telltale tool. Is the fact that Before the Storm running in Unity a bad thing? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Backtalk, a feature that I had not heard of at all before, will be something new in Before the Storm. It's something that will be unique for Chloe and showcase her wittiness. While we don't know too much about it, my guess would be that it's a way for Chloe to interrupt a conversation. Someone is talking to her and she doesn't like what they're saying, so it'll open up a dialogue choice while the person is talking and allow Chloe to talk back. This sounds very interesting to me, and I think if implemented correctly, could change a number of decisions and outcomes from conversations rather than just choosing one option over the other, while also being a good way to differentiate how Chloe and Max handle conversations differently. Thirdly, Deck 9 are aiming for the time between each episode release to be about 8 to 10 weeks long, around 2 months, which was very similar to the release schedule of the original Life is Strange. This would put the second episode to release around early November, with the third episode releasing at about mid-January, which means that around that time we might start learning about Life is Strange Season 2 from Don't Nod. I don't want to take away from Before the Storm's thunder, but there is still another Life is Strange game in the works, and I'm excited to learn more. Fourth and finally, each episode of Before the Storm will span a full day in Chloe's life and will be consecutive, so after we get the first episode, the second episode will focus on the day after the events of the first one, further killing my previous theory. This is pretty much exactly how Season 1 was set out, and while it may seem that a 3-day window into Chloe's life is pretty small, it's going to be a significant time in her life, exploring how Chloe and Rachel met and setting into motion the events of Season 1. Thank you for watching. Shout out to my SSD for failing and losing all of my data, which cost me a lot of time on this video. Speaking of time, so much of it has passed so quickly and we are less than 1 week away from Before the Storm, and I honestly thought I would have more videos out by this point, but it seems this won't be the case. I'm still incredibly excited however, and you can look forward to a review of episode 1 when that comes out, and maybe some more videos of any interesting details that come out of that episode. For now though, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a good day.